Bold Bytes, your bite-sized guide to payments.
Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Robert Copeland, and here on Bold Bytes, we're diving deep into the fascinating, ever-evolving world of merchant processing. If you have ever swiped a card, tapped your phone, or clicked buy online, you've interacted with the merchant processing industry. It is the invisible engine that powers commerce, and today we're going to pull back the curtain and explore its inner workings. We'll talk about the latest trends, biggest challenges, and the most innovative solutions shaping the future of payments. Whether you're a seasoned industry pro or just curious about how money moves in the digital age, Bold Bytes is your go-to source for insights, interviews, and analysis. So buckle up, grab your headphones, and get ready for a bold bite of knowledge. Today, we have with us a true pioneer in restaurant technology and payment solutions with over 25 years of experience. He has been at the forefront of transforming how restaurants operate and process payments. I'm glad to have on today's podcast, Gary Liu.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Welcome, everybody.
So in 1998, Gary founded Hot Sauce Technologies, which became a leading provider of point-of-sale software for restaurants and bars. Under his leadership, Hot Sauce expanded into 15 different markets with offices across the United States and even in Taipei, Taiwan. But his impact on the industry didn't stop there. Gary went on to start Bold Integrated Payments, which has helped countless software vendors and value-added resellers maximize their potential in payment processing. His commitment to transparency and partner success has been a hallmark of his career. In 2022, Gary joined forces with Tyler Young to lead another revolution in the restaurant technology space. After acquiring Ordix POS, Gary and team have transformed it into Tonic POS, a modern cloud-based solution that's challenging industry giants while putting partners first. What makes Gary's perspective particularly valuable is not just his technical expertise, but his approach to leadership. Known for his servant leadership style, Gary has consistently put the needs of his team and partners first, fostering growth and innovation throughout his career. The philosophy extends beyond business. As a devoted husband and father of 4 wonderful kids and an avid sports fan, Gary brings the same passion and dedication to both his personal and professional life. Going back to when you first started really in the industry, when you first founded Hot Sauce Technologies, what would you say the payment landscape in relation to a point-of-sale company was? What was that relationship like?
Boy, I founded Hot Sauce by accident. I grew up in the restaurant world. My then business partner and I, Michael Lapid, created Hot Sauce POS as a fun project coming out of college in 98. We took it to market in 2002. Right around that time, we had to integrate payments. We didn't know much about payments. We had to use, IC Verify. I think they called it IC Terrify back then, and PC Charge. For those of you who've been doing this for a while, the double batching was a huge issue there with those answer request files. But it was around 2004 when I was being approached by Link, before they became WorldPay, and other payments providers wanting us to refer a business. So we started referring that business and really learning about payments. And I will tell you, the lack of transparency and the lack of control was pretty evident up front as we started to get into it. But it was an interesting world for sure.
When you started referring to business, was that literally there was an agent that you worked with, a counterpart, you'd send them the phone number of the customer and they call it?
Yeah, I know back then, I think Mercury was pretty big. We never did end up working with Mercury. And that is the model you just explained, where you kind of threw the lead over the wall, inside sales rep would call and sign them up. We worked with more local companies, and we did, I think, at some point provide some leads to certain local sales reps. But there was a company we worked with that happened to be a reseller for Link that we were blessed enough to be able to do everything ourselves. We got trained on writing our own papers, keying our own apps, pretty much from the beginning. And that really helped us learn the industry pretty quickly. Interchange, pricing. I happen to be a numbers geek, so the pricing and analyzing statements came naturally to me pretty quickly because I do enjoy numbers. To be able to key our own apps, write our own papers, be customer facing really was a newer concept back then for software providers and POS providers around 2004, 2005. Now these days, even over the last 5 or 10 years, a lot of VARs and ISVs are customer facing. It cuts down on the sales cycle. and not having to introduce yet another company, another rep to say, hey, so-and-so is going to call you. And while you're there selling the point of sale system, it's a natural close to include the payments with it as assumed close, if you will.
If you were to put a percentage back in those days, what percentage of revenue was coming from credit card processing compared to, say, your hardware, your software on the POS side?
If I throw in the upfront sale of a $10,000, $20,000 point of sale system, it's a little bit harder for me to put a percentage out there without putting some thought into it. But as far as the monthly recurring revenue, we were, I guess, pretty inexpensive, right, on a monthly software support. I think, I can't remember, but a 3-station support fees were like $85 a month back then. So if we're making $100, $200 off the merchant account, it was a pretty significant portion of that particular rooftop that we've signed up, right? Now, how many rooftops did we sign up with payments? That's a different story. We obviously try to sign up most of them, but we didn't mandate the payments like it is today with some of these other providers. Like, hey, you've got to use ABC or XYZ payments. And I think that's more the norm today than it was almost 20 years ago.
About what year did you leave Hot Sauce?
So I left Hot Sauce, I'll never forget, August 15th of 2009, right, to start what is now Bold today.
And Bold 2009 was the early days of what you see now, which is all the processors really wanting to go after the software vendors. What was the primary goal? What was your business model? What made you know or think that was something that was open in the market?
Like I said earlier, when I was in payments 2004, 5, 6, 7, there was a lack of transparency in the industry, right? I'm a numbers guy I mentioned earlier. So when we got our residual report each month, it was a 1-page report that basically had a merchant name, merchant ID, here's how much volume they process, here's your 20, 30, 40% of whatever it was way back then. And I was like, hey, how do I know? Can I get more details, right? This is a 1-page summary. I want to see like how the math works. I know I bought an Epson printer for $200 back then and sold it for $395. It was pretty easy to calculate income minus expense.
Right.
And know, hey, I made $195 off that printer. But in merchant world, we had to cross our fingers and hope that our partner we're working with isn't doing funny math. People make mistakes, so mistakes happen. Believe me when I tell you, processors do make mistakes. So I want to be able to drill down into that if I had the opportunity to. Or B, whoever was keying into pricing, we're all human beings, whether it was them or at the time it was us keying into pricing. You miss a decimal point. That's the difference between a penny and 10 cents or 2 basis points and 20 basis points. So there was a lack of transparency and control that I saw an opportunity. Well, I will tell you, when I first left Hot Sauce, late 2009, it was more of a lifestyle business for a couple years, okay? We grew a lifestyle business. I even had a startup, serial entrepreneur that I am, had this Give 360 app around 2013 I was messing around with that was a fundraising platform, leveraging an app and payments technology. I won't get into the details of that, but decided to fold that up, even though I still think it's a fantastic idea today. And it was around 2016 really decided to scale what we had going on. So on July 1st, 2017, we launched Priority Integrated Solutions, which is what Bold is today. At the time, we had about 1,500 merchants, 25 partners, but really targeted ISVs and VARs. And to answer your question, right, the consolidation, I was so excited when we launched it because at the time, Mercury, or I think they were Vantiv Integrated Payments at the time. Let's just say there was a lot of opportunity, a lot of unhappy ISVs and VARs. And right after we really launched and really decided to start to scale, the acquisition, the M&A stuff started happening. Announcements of Deposit Touch acquisition, Restaurant Manager, Future, those announcements. And then Heartland acquired Digital Dining, Dinerware, PC America, and then Bold Bytes, right, which is now Heartland Restaurant. Certainly took the wind out of our sails and the excitement, but we still, had great growth. When you mentioned earlier, when Tyler and I merged our companies together on July 1st, 2022, and acquired Ordix, at that time, I think we had 8,000 merchants or maybe even more than that, and had a couple hundred partners by that time.
There was also another transition that happened, I feel that happened, which is You mentioned the upfront money back in the day. You get that $10,000, $15,000 upfront money on a point of sale system. Well, there was something else that changed. I wonder how much you feel that also drove the interest in the merchant processor, which is the SaaS model for point of sale. I don't know many point of sale systems that still do a true outright buy. Most of them want to do some kind of, subscription model. And how much of that change also drove the need and the importance of VARs working more closely with a payment processor.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you hit the nail on the head. The days of selling $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 systems are long gone, right? You got large, heavily funded providers out there, POS providers, either heavily discounting the systems or sometimes giving away for free or even paying people to take their point of sale system. So, in order for the reseller community to compete, they had to get creative. The SaaS model certainly took shape, right? The landscape has tremendously changed. We're in the restaurant point of sale world, it really was pretty stagnant for a couple of decades. It wasn't till these acquisition happened, or even prior to these M&As that I was talking about starting in 2017. You had NCR purchasing Radiant, right? And I don't remember what the year that was, 2012-ish, who owned Aloha at the time. And then you had Oracle buy Micros. And then you have these PE firms providing funding for multiple rounds of hundreds of millions of dollars of funding for folks like Toast and Spot On, which one of those companies are public today, to then hire armies of salespeople and really go out and sell direct and pretty much buy business if you want to look at it. Now they've done a tremendous job with their product. COVID helped accelerate that. They got a nice product, put a lot of money into it. So again, all that is still SaaS, right? Even though they may be heavily discounting and giving away these systems, these providers I'm telling you about do charge hundreds of dollars a month for their software. Right. If not more than that. I've seen bills for thousands of dollars a month for just software SaaS fees.
Do you think that transition into more of a subscription model, the focus of the dealers and the point of sales has kind of had to shift because they're having to get so creative on the sales aspect that it's made it more challenging to make sure that they're providing the service? And how do it's harder to balance having those large support teams, implementation, field technicians, when, that's a hard transition. Now all your revenue is more coming in from a SaaS model or primarily.
Yeah, well, service is still very important. I'm a big believer in providing that high touch level of service, and I've seen it. We work with a couple hundred partners at Bold, some of them in the restaurant space, other software companies in the retail space. The ones that do really well provide a high level of service. Service looks a little different today because there was previously a lot of these resellers a decade ago they would provide a 24/7 round the clock. And, it's harder to hire people now and to have that full coverage. So there's this concept of shared support services that one of my good friends really was against it at first, but got a little bit of that flavor, that Kool-Aid, and really has bought into it, this shared level of support where the software provider will provide that tier 1, level 1 support. And they don't have to hire as many people, and carry that around-the-clock service, except for on-call emergency. So SaaS that goes with it, along with the merchant revenue, helps justify investing in these opportunities. When I say investing in, what I mean by that is discounting these systems to be able to compete and hopefully making that money back, that upfront investment of the hardware and the implementation, hopefully within a couple of months. And then after that, it's the recurring revenue is continuous, right? As long as that restaurant continues to operate using your system and your services.
Yeah, so you kind of, I think, answered one of my questions, which is one of the differences between, say, when you started Priority Integrated Solutions and today is you listen to podcasts today, everyone wants to go after the ISVs, the VARs, listen to the popular podcasts. That's all they want to talk about. So how do you separate yourself? Why should ISV 1 work with ISV 2? I think you pretty much stated that earlier, but if you want to elaborate any more.
Well, Yeah, absolutely. The M&A didn't just happen in where these merchant service providers were acquiring software companies. The other M&A piece of this is that a lot of these providers gobbled up each other. All right. What I mean by that is the payments consolidation of the payments company. And that led to opportunity. What ends up happening, these companies get so big that customer service starts to go downhill, prices start to increase. You have upset partners, right? If you start messing with partners, merchants, and start increasing their prices or providing poor level of service, that's not going to go over well to the merchant, and it's not going to go over well with the partners. Therefore, it creates opportunity for us. Keeping it simple, right? We don't increase prices on our merchants without the partner's permission. Therefore, partners are in control. It's part of the control and transparency I spoke about. Partners in control of that pricing. That, along with providing a high level of service and being a solutions provider and being strategic to help our partners grow their business, I think is what differentiates us. To be able to work with a software company, kind of figure out whether it's some of the pains they're going through or whether it's opportunities they may not be capitalizing on. We strategize with them, come up with a game plan, and help them grow their business. Because ultimately, you help a partner grow their business, they're going to be loyal to you.
What do you think is the hardest thing for an ISV or a software company to grasp about payment processing? I think a lot of people think it's easy and it's just, I just sign this application and everything works. And as we know, it's way more complicated. But what do you think is the hardest thing for them to kind of grasp about the payment processing industry once they're starting to really dive into it?
That's a great question, Robert. It depends on how deep they want to dive into it. I think there was a trend the last couple of years called, started out as cash discounting or non-cash adjustment. Visa didn't like that. And now it's kind of shifted the last couple of years to this concept of dual pricing, right? And that's a good example of kind of grasping rules and regulations is one piece. I have partners that still call it surcharge. Well, it's not really surcharge. Surcharge is an actual program from Visa, MasterCard, and it's got rules around it. Okay, so you can't call it a surcharge because you have to abide by those rules if you're going to really do surcharge. I hardly see people do actual surcharging. So just grasping the compliance piece of it is one part if you're going to play in that area. Or if you're going to be more interested in traditional processing, again, depends how involved you are, right? Pricing is always smoke and mirrors sometimes with interchange and all the different card brand fees and things you add on top of interchange. That part, we have an AI tool that our partners submit statements to us, and we usually do the work for them, run it through the AI tool, and consult our partners on how much profitability. We don't call it a statement analysis. It's a profitability analysis. Here's how much profit is on the account if we match it. But for the ones that want to be more hands-on and want to get more involved and learn it, we can actually give them access to our AI tool to do some of the profitability analysis by themselves. Okay, so some of those things are things that are a little bit harder to grasp, and just understanding risk in general.
Yeah.
A lot of folks don't understand how risk works and what happens why a deal may get declined or pended, or it's a live merchant account, why funds are being held. Okay,
I had a large Christmas party and sold out the whole restaurant, and they don't understand why that transaction is getting questioned.
Right. Because what essentially happens is that the processor is taking on all the risk of fronting the money, shows up in the restaurant's bank account tomorrow or the next day. Well, when does the cardholder pay for their credit card bill? 30 days later. So who's fronting that money?
That's right.
Right? The processor's fronting that money. So there's that risk piece of it, trying to educate someone new, an ISV or new ISV VAR that is just venturing into payments, or maybe they've always been involved in payments as a referral partner, but now they want to take on more of a hands-on approach and become, their own ISO, right? Mm-hmm. Understanding that piece is certainly educating the partner is, I won't say challenging, but it's just teaching something new to somebody.
One of the biggest things also, I think, is people don't realize from a technology standpoint that merchant processing is not, it's kind of behind the years in technology. And so, we're used to our phones and people talking about crypto, this, that, the other. I don't know if First Data still uses the green screens, but they probably do. the payment processing industry is behind. We still just do chip. The rest of the world does chip and pin. China, I don't even think you use cards anymore. It's all on your phone. So thinking about that, how in today's processing world, you're seeing it's changing as well. You're seeing more of the emergence of banking with processing, more different. PayFac is a popular thing right now. How do you see incorporating, say, restaurant POS, Tonic POS, or making sure that you're staying and taking the opportunity with the changing landscape of payment processing?
Yeah, you have to be on the forefront, right? No one wants to be the Blockbuster of the world, right?
Yeah.
For the one example I would give is our earned tip access, or what they call earned wage access. When I used to wait tables in the 90s, I got my credit card tips every night. I was able to walk out with cash and go get a drink or have a meal with a friend after a shift. It's my understanding today that you got to wait and get your tips on your paycheck, right? I don't know what a restaurant does. Do most restaurants do weekly payroll or biweekly? I don't know. But with this concept of earned wage access or earned tipped access, how cool would it be? And I think the technology's there. We're just, we haven't built it in a Tonic yet, but I think it's certainly on our roadmap. When I clock out or check out at the end of the shift, it'll prompt me and say, hey, do I want my money now, my tips tonight? I may have to pay a small fee for it, but do I want my tips tonight be loaded on my debit card within seconds? There's different rails for that. You mentioned some of it is different, I won't go into the technical side of the different rails that can move that money in near real time. But if I hit yes, I want that money, I walk out to the parking lot, go out and grab a meal with my friends, I have access to those funds right away. I don't have to wait for my paycheck a week or two later. So that's an example of how to leverage today's technology that's available, tied into, in this case, a restaurant point of sale system to be able to access my funds faster.
Everyone wants their money faster. If you look at some of the most popular apps, they're the ones where you get your paycheck 3 days earlier. Seen more and more people signing up for those apps, right? So that everyone wants their money as quickly as possible. If we look outside of restaurant point of sale, other verticals, how much do you see that becoming diversifying as you move forward? Do you see the days where an ISV can just be in one vertical? It's almost like with stocks, right? Or do you want to diversify your portfolio and try to tap into things that are not as common? The restaurant point of sale industry there's plenty of point of sales out there. Everyone's creating one. So the competition gets higher, but how do you balance the thoughts of the competition, the level of trying to get new business in one area, which you've done great for 20 plus years, but not limiting yourself to that?
A mentor of mine has said, if you're good at making vanilla ice cream, keep making vanilla ice cream. And I'm a visionary at heart. Most of our audience listening to this are business owners. So I would say I'm a visionary at heart. And when I was younger in my career, I liked shiny objects. But shiny objects sometimes get you distracted of what you do and what you do great. If I'm an ISV, the answer probably is keep making that vanilla ice cream would be my advice. Okay, you may add some bolt-on type of things, right?
Stay true to yourself.
Yeah, but your core business is your core engine, and you may have some bolt-ons to it that makes sense. If I'm an ISV, I'm in the restaurant space building restaurant software, I'm not going to turn around tomorrow and start building car wash software. There's something to be said of being a niche and being really good at what you do. And there's some examples out there, providers have done a good job with that. They just kind of stayed in their lane, okay, and been very successful in their lane. With that said, we're a little bit different at Bold, okay? Bold, we offer payments. That's our bread and butter to ISVs and VARs. We work with a couple hundred partners, and half of them in a restaurant space. The other half are a mixed bag in a retail, liquor store, dry cleaners, martial arts studio, software, in different spaces. So for us, we do feel like we're still making vanilla, which is payments for software, but we are expanding into non-restaurant, non-retail verticals because there are many software providers out there that take payments or need to take payments. So I don't know if that answered your question, Robert, but that would be my advice to starting a business is not easy, right? Running a business is not easy, but then trying to be a jack of all trade, master of none. That's some advice that I got earlier in my career that is difficult.
One kind of follow-up question on that. Being that you kind of have, I've heard house of brands, right?
Right.
How do you make sure that you kind of decision making, right? Like you said, you want to stay true to yourself with on one side, the other side, in a way you still change true. It's integrated payments, but you're wanting to expand into new verticals. How do you keep that where the vision is clear to the team, to the company, to your partners?
Right. Well, look, I started this podcast with my background coming from restaurant industry and restaurant point of sale. So it's always been in my heart. And as we start to grow and scale Bold, a lot of our partners are restaurant providers, and they were hungry for for a product that they could sell and go compete with some of the bigger providers out there. So there was a void we needed to fill. And as each merger or acquisition would happen, some of our partners were no longer able to send payments to us, although they wanted to. The acquirer of their parent software they were selling mandated they had to use the processing. And so we had to make a shift and acquire some technology and be able to provide a solution for our restaurant point of sale partners of ours that were sending a lot of business to Bold, and overnight when their parent company got acquired, had to stop. But they wanted to continue to do business with Bold. I see that as almost something we had to do, was to have a solution for our partners. At the end of the day, we're a solutions provider. We wanted to provide solutions for our restaurant VARs. On the other side, on Bold, providing integrated payments to softwares, again, we're a solutions provider, and we want to provide and be an expert. You mentioned it earlier. Every payment processor, many ISOs, they want to be in integrated payments. But they don't really know what that means, a lot of them. Some do, but most of them don't, right? They just say they want to be there. It sounds...
It's a hot topic.
Yeah, it's a fancy word. Sounds great. We're blessed enough to come from software. We're one of the few people that came from software first into payments and understand software, where most of the trend over the last 5-10 years is payments trying to get into software because they knew they had a commodity that they're offering and they needed the stickiness of the software, because it's not fun. It's just not sexy, if you will, to talk about payments. So they needed software to get a hook into the merchant opportunity. And we understand that, right? Coming from the other way around. So we are blessed enough that we understand integrated payments. We've helped plenty of software companies do integrations. We do it in our sleep, and we're a certified data cap provider. We've helped do integrations into our own gateway and other types of payment devices. It's a little more complicated than just your regular merchant services standalone terminal situation.
We're coming up to our limit on time, and I just wanted to make sure that I gave you a few extra minutes if there was anything that you just wanted to talk about or to help the people about, what's coming 2025.
My mother recently went through some medical challenges, and we're still working through that. And it's just a reminder that we live in a relational world. So some people separate work and life, but we're all, look, we spend a lot of time with our peers at work, clients, our vendors, and at the end of the day, we're all human. Just love on everybody, treat others how you want to be treated, and that's just the way we operate. I'm looking forward, Robert, to maybe future being your guest again. This is fun. I could talk about this all day long, but I'm just hoping that this content is helpful for some folks out there. And I would also say reach out to me anytime. I love talking shop. So I love strategizing, whether you're a current partner of ours, and we have a couple hundred of those, or you're maybe a potential partner of ours. I love talking shop. I love to try to provide some insight. I sit in a unique position where I get to see a couple hundred partners, and I get to see what works, and partners of ours that are growing their business. I get to see what doesn't work. Being in that unique seat, I'd be happy to share anything I can to help our partners or prospects grow their business, or at the very least, I'll tell you what not to do. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for allowing me to be your guest today, Robert.
Absolutely. And thank you, Gary. And, that last thing you stated, I think, is one of the biggest things why I want to say thank you for, I wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be having this if it wasn't for you giving me a call many years ago and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And thank you again, and we'll have you on many times.
All right.
Until the next Bold Bites, thank you, everyone, and have a good day.